Well, that's right. So on that note, it's time to bring our speakers on stage. Now, first up, let me please invite someone who's about to extract all the relevant perspectives from fellow speakers. I'd like to invite our session moderator, Anshul Vasu, Vice President, Media and Consumer, Accenture. Thank you so much, Anshul, for joining us. So you and I, we will now welcome your speakers. That's the plan. Let me go ahead and invite my speakers on stage. We have with us Greshma Singh, Vice President, Marketing, India and Southwest Asia, The Coca-Cola Company. But let me please have Greshma on the stage. Can we have a refreshing round of applause, everyone? Well, that's right.
Fantastic.
Well, up next, let me once again invite Varun Sethuraman, MMA India Board Member, Head of Marketing Communications, Nestle India. Let me further invite Deepit Purkayastha, Co-Founder and CEO, In Shorts and Public. And Guriz Narayanan, Director Marketing, CMO India, Bacardi.
Hello, hello, hello.
You know, we're all about talking about winning attention in the age of AI. Let's have an attentive round of applause from all of you. Let's give that energy and let's get those insights. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
Have
very
you all
much.
take your seats, and with that, Anshul, over to you.
Oh, mic check. Can you all hear me? Great. Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for the audience as well. I'm super excited about today's panel. I'll stand for a while, then I'll sit. But I've been on all three sides of this equation, right? Today, the time is so rare, and such a different time, almost on a monthly basis, is changing, right? Today's content creation has changed dramatically. There's so many great ways of creating quick content, but there is so limited way to capture attention today. I think that's where we've been challenged as marketers, as business leaders, and I have sat on all three sides of the table. I was part of media company earlier, where we were selling inventory and attention. Then I was part of a e-commerce company where we were buying attention. Now I sit in consulting, where I sit in boardrooms on both sides. I work at the intersection of media and advertisers. And the challenge remains. How do you work in a way so that you can personalize attention, you can get personalized attention from your consumers, right? And I couldn't be more excited about getting all of you on the same panel, right? So I will start with you, Greshma, right? We'll make it quick. It's about 30 minutes. You've been at the forefront of one of the most popular legacy brand in the world. You've changed the way brands are being perceived. You've changed the way consumers consume things that they didn't even want in the first place, or they didn't know they wanted, right? But what is your learning been, and how are you leveraging this kind of brand message that you built over the last almost 1.5 centuries? And now, how are you contextualizing it in terms of today's audiences in India, outside India, and so on?
I mean, I think when you look at attention and the nature of attention, it's fundamentally changing, right? I think one of the conversations we're having is it getting scattered? Is it becoming less attention? In a way, attention is only scattering. There is not less of it, but if your planning is not keeping pace, then it can feel like there is actually less attention, because the amount of content, what AI is making possible, what social is making possible, fundamentally, I think we're all realizing that attention is being reframed. You talked about buying attention. I think we think a lot about earning attention, because scale and impressions, I don't think that's what matters anymore. What matters now is attention density. So if I look at, for example, Coke Studio, which is one of our most beloved IPs, today, just getting you to see the song is only the beginning of the conversation, and it is a conversation. What really matters is, did you connect with it? Did it matter to you? Did you send it to someone? Did you make a reel? Did you connect with the lyric? This is where the attention compounds, and that's what brands, that's where we focus with our brands. As much as these things are changing, I think some things have not changed, right? The quality of consumer insight, how sharp your creative is, that almost matters more today than it ever did. And that is what separates, anything that cuts through from the noise. That's also where things like AI are making life very different. We were saying that Social is like an always-on qualitative group. We used to have to book rooms and get consumers. Today, AI makes it possible to listen in. And I think the secret to, at least what we try to do with the brands, is to listen closely and then use that to move fast, but also with depth rather than breadth. So I think that's, kind of the focus.
Very well put. In fact, I was discussing with one of my team members yesterday that the classic marketing funnel is no longer alive. It's almost dead because the journey has become so complex for a user that you can't really put a pin on which was the last attribution. Was that the one that made that final sale? So what are those marketing channels versus what are the sales channels? And I would like to go with you, Varun, next, because at Nestle, you look after the plethora of brands. Every brand has a different lifespan in a consumer's life. And we look at a Nescafe versus a Maggi versus some other brand very differently. How do you, as a marcom or a marketing person, and the entire team, how do you measure it? What does success mean to you in all of these different contexts, right? Because it's the reality, right? Tomorrow, if I were to look at a coffee, how are you in my life at 7 a.m. versus in the cricket match where I'm watching with my family on a big screen? Then how do you capture my attention and the other audiences?
Oh, that's 10 questions and a half in one. Pretty much like most of what we need to do, right? See, listen, attention is fragmented. We speak about it, but attention is liquid, right, effectively. And the challenge, therefore, is it's very difficult to hold it. And I think more than ever, the one thing that is very clear is there are a lot of signals that all of us are emitting, right? And a lot of people across this room who are going to be capturing it and monetizing it. Those high intent signals ultimately is what we as consumers will transmit back. And I'm the same person who eats a Maggi. I'm the same person who drinks a coffee. I'm the same person who's going to reach out for a Kit Kat when I need to, especially when trucks are not being stolen. But for the same consumer at different times, we will give out different intent signals. And we look at those intent signals across the day. So, and I'll take the example of coffee. We have two beverage brands next to each other, so hot beverage, easier that way. At 7 a.m. in the morning, we're not making choices on what kind of coffee we want to have. That's a habit moment, right? There you don't need to be emitting signals to the time of saying, you know what, here is how I choose. There it's about just being present in the moment, subtle, enough. It's habit building. At midnight, it's a different conversation. You're staying up, you need something, you are looking, hyper-activating whatever you need to. At those times, we have a different kind of messaging. You can't have the same messaging to the same consumer at different points in time. That is what I think is changing. And overall, FMCG, I like to believe that FMCG over many years has been a low cognitive load model for the consumer, okay? We are not selling electronics or Apple or anything that is going to require a lot of research. What AI has done is it's pretty much reduced that friction and caused a lot more friction in return over the amount of content that we do. So that's the dichotomy that we live with. So we can look at 25 different metrics to measure, but I think for brands, we look at a couple of things very simplistically. In the category that you're operating, what is the share of conversations that you own? Simple, right? If it's a confectionery category, you can have 10% market share, you can have 50% market share. But if consumers speaking about you, what those intent signals, measure that. That is a sense of whether you're in the conversation and whether you're getting noticed. That's one. And then share of search is the highest form of intent. Now it's a completely different ballgame. Where do you go and figure out that search? The Google folks will tell you something, the Meta folks will tell you something, the LLMs are saying something else. So that we're learning.
It's good that you mentioned that because it's been one of my pet peeves, and I worked in performance marketing side, brand marketing side. And it's easy to get swayed by the plethora of data that you sometimes see. And especially for the brands on this panel, you've built your brands with traditional marketing, let's say 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago, some of the brands. How are you dissecting the traditional brand versus performance? Because performance gives you data, it gives you a sense of comfort, hey, I'm doing the right thing. But a real brand is only built after 15 years. Then you go beyond that performance marketing, right? In each of your categories, there must be incumbents who will create a 100, 200, 500 crore business based on pure, brutal performance marketing. But real brands are built beyond that. So how are you activating it? Maybe anybody of you, if you want to take that question.
To be honest, well, I don't do performance marketing anymore. But in just speaking from the previous world, I think we can't completely, of course, performance marketing has its own, I mean, you are able to tangibly measure drive, but both of them are very interlinked to each other. At the end of the day, your brand marketing impacts your performance marketing. I mean, your conversions are better if you have a brand which has actually a pull. At the end of the day, it really also depends on the journey that you're in. Initially, you could do performance marketing, but you'll hit a ceiling wherein you will have to do brand marketing. So they go hand in hand. As you scale, the percentages might differ, but you can't do one in isolation of the other, especially when you're running a digital brand. It's also very critical to build a brand that resonates with the consumer and pulls in the consumer. And there are now metrics you can very easily measure. I think there are a lot of digital gurus around here wherein you are able to measure the amount of visits you create, how do those visits then relate to your sessions, and sessions relate to conversion, etc. From a metric point of view as well, it's defined, but I don't think we can separate the two in the world anymore. They probably go hand in hand.
Fair. In fact, with you, I have a specific question in mind because you work in a category which is highly regulated, right? And I think what your brand has been doing for the last many years is what other brands are now forced to do, which is contextualize advertising, personalized to a particular person, if not a cohort. And in this new age of preferences changing dramatically, right? The next generation, Gen Z, Alpha, Beta also even. Now, there are a lot of flips and flops which are happening. Today, there's a bhajan clubbing happening, which is very popular, right? There are so many other things which are now deeply rooted in history, yet they have a very modern way of looking at it. How are you looking at your brand and attention in personalized manner when the preferences are so all over the place? Are you using AI in that field also?
We do. To be honest, I don't think regulation really impedes impact. It actually raises the bar for relevance. Be it alcohol or any other industry, if you take a look at, today the scarcest commodity is the consumer's attention, especially if you go to the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, as we're talking about. I mean, it's really the scarcest commodity is attention. And how do you really earn that? And that's where I think where we lean in is really being in touch with culture, really deliberately mapping what culture means to the consumer and what passion points you can really play in. For us, we don't compete in ads. I would say we compete in earned attention. And that comes with, we compete with lifestyle, we compete with food, we compete with other moments in the consumer's life, and how you can meaningfully show up is more important to us. For example, I mean, Bacardi is the one which traditionally had done NH7 Weekender. We had done Bacardi Blast, mass scale, but now we're deliberately doing experiential, which is more intimate, one-to-one consumer. So you see that effect and the impact you create on the consumer versus just blasting attention. So that's a shift you would see across industries and not just alcohol, for example.
Okay, great. And or maybe Deepak, you can also ask a question or maybe even answer it in a way, because today all brands are probably coming to you with a specific brand, with a specific brief of performance-led output, because that's what the CFO approves in the room ultimately, right? I've been in many boardrooms. The CFO takes the final call. Brand marketing, I don't know what you're doing. How many sales are you getting from this campaign? How do you solve for it when you go to your advertiser or your other clients?
Yeah, I think, see, ultimately, every CFOs are also not stupid people, right? They also have to deliver and participate in the conversation that is happening in their kind of management boardrooms, etc., right? And ultimately, growth happens through a reasonable allocation between brand marketing as well as the so-called performance marketing. Actually, I don't like the word performance marketing because everything has to give some performance. And what we call performance marketing is basically response marketing in the digital age, which is like, acha, I'm plugging in money, I need to get a certain response out of it, right? Like earlier it was called response, ki response kitna aaya? That is the question we used to ask. So I think shifting that narrative around that every digital kind of marketing asset or media that you are kind of plugging yourself in is relevant and needs to be measured in a unique way, whether it is delivering performance or not. And I think that is something that most marketers and CMOs appreciate really, really well. That every kind of context, every attention quality has a role to play in the media mix. And yeah, and the way to measure it will be different and unique. I think people who are not sloppy in their work are the ones who are saying that, okay, performance, brand, and all of that. But mostly most marketers I meet, and like I've seen that people put in that level of attention and detailing that, okay, this is a platform for this is how I'll measure it, and this is how I'll see the results.
I think the split between performance marketing and equity marketing, honestly, is very, very old school. In today's day and age, I would agree that's not really how things are playing out, because the reality is the brand power, which is kind of your mental share and then your market share, are very well correlated. And there are very real in-market evidence of what that brand pull brings, be it a price premium that you can hold or the rate at which velocity. Because we talk about digital touch points, but in, fragmented trade as well, the straight velocity of a brand is a direct consequence of its brand power. So I think I do agree with you. It is lazy that gets in the way. If you take the time, the numbers are there. And today with AI, the ability to catch every signal. I loved what you said. Marketing has moved from mass data to signals, and the signals are there. I think it's on us as marketers to be able to use those signals to track the entire trail, which we should do.
Yeah, but it'll also be fun, no? There's performance marketing. Imagine walking into a boardroom and saying, this is my share of performance marketing and non-performance marketing.
So one interesting thing that I have always found, especially with a brand like Nestle, there is a lot of data, of course. The signals have always existed, right? In some or the other form. Sometimes you can also convert offline signals to your digital metric, do an overlap, understand how it's happening. But how are you changing your marketing and attention marketing in a way using AI? Is there a significant shift that your team is doing today, which others can probably learn from?
See, it keeps going back to content, right? I think right now there is a massive amount of explosion of the amount of content we produce, right?
Correct.
The same Maggie noodles at 10 different points in the day, we will have 10 different pieces of creatives. Because again, it goes back to intent, but it also goes back to a little bit of consumer understanding. Traditionally, Maggie's always been or was built between that 4 to 6 moment when kids come back home. Now suddenly look at the different opportunities that you have. You're rushed, you don't have your mates coming in for whatever election, etc. You have an opportunity to have it for breakfast. Late night Maggie is a thing. IPL is happening, you want to have that hot bowl of Maggie. Monsoons and coffee used to be a thing, monsoon and Maggie is a thing now. You go to the mountains, you go on a holiday, I would seriously think you would have that Pahado Valley Maggie. Now, I've already listed 7. So you will have 7 different messages. You can't slap them on the same creative and just change the line. So effectively, AI is now, so I will marry intent, AI, content, and the consumer and say, okay, the outcome of that is just customize the message that you're giving. Maybe the same set of cohorts, maybe 2 different set of cohorts, but just bring alive the magic of the brand. So what you end up doing, therefore, is a Maggie versus any other competitor. 10 people can say the same thing, but Maggie will be able to own it in a certain way, in a certain style. So ultimately, it just boils down to that. We don't have 15 years to build brands, but brands that have been built over 15 years, we have to protect them.
Precisely, absolutely.
And also, I feel AI is just making it so much easier. Like previously, if you had to map culture, passion points, you will go to a traditional agency, you will do that work. It takes longer. But now it's so much easier to really understand what culture means and how can you be a part of culture in consumers' life. And that is also, that insight has made it quite valuable. And your ability then to really react and respond to those insights and be a part of culture has also become much faster. But I think the key then remains is how you still remain authentic, because then you will need to have some guardrails around, how much of AI do you adapt in your creative, etc. But if you can stay authentic, AI is just enabling you to be faster in culture, know what's relevant to your consumer, respond faster, and it's on us then to take that speed and move with it. Yeah.
I must ask you, while you answer, I must ask you this. I need to understand the secret. How did you manage to get Diet Coke all over the place?
Oh, I was going to give you a Sprite example, and I thought you were going to ask me the recipe, and I was going to be like, I don't know. Do you want me to tell you the Sprite thing or the Diet Coke thing?
Diet Coke, definitely. Sprite,
right.
maybe, yes.
Interesting. So I was going to say to, Pahado Wali Maggie, I love as well, so that's just chiming in. But what you were saying in terms of, tapping into contextual relevance, I think we have found even the signals you can pipe into your media, and that's relevant to many in the room. For us, weather really matters, right? When it's hot, so we're loving the weather right now. People love a cold drink, a cold one. So in the past, we've only been able to talk to heat as one uniform thing. Today, you can put weather signals into media. So a Sprite that has always talked about thandrak in a, the right tone of voice, today, chip chippy garmi, tap tapi garmi, you can have different creatives still in the same voice, but a person in the same day, before and after rain, you can actually have a different creative, and therefore they feel that your experience of the heat is actually what the brand is resonating with. So I just wanted to share that. Diet Coke.
I need to know this.
It's,
Every brand wants to be aware Diet
yeah,
Coke
it is a beautiful thing. It's an incredible brand, and it's very exciting to see it reach the level it has reached with the self-proclaimed Diet Coke Pagloos, who we love and we think of as an extended part of the marketing team. I think seeing this entire Diet Coke surge has really helped us also learn what it means to move from broadcaster and lead participant to collaborator with a consumer. I think we were starting to learn that with Coke Studio, but on Diet Coke, the Pagloos are in charge. Our job is to share with them, share their amazing content, fuel the fire, but I think it really is this brave new world where the consumer takes charge, and that means it doesn't matter how old a brand you are, you join hands with them and you create a brave new future for these brands. So I think we're loving the Diet Coke as much as everyone else, and we're doing everything we can to get more of it back on shelves.
I think Grishma's made all of us into UGC creators. I was telling her I found a can in Meghalaya and I was like, this deserves to go on social media.
Precisely, right? So in fact, I think the video also said that in InShort's video, that you're seeing so many ads. I think in a day, we may be seeing about 5,000 ads easily, and we don't even remember 5 after the day, right? How, as a platform, and I'm a huge fan of InShorts, I've been using it for the last 15 or whatever years that you've been live, but how are you evolving your platform in a way so that you can use more AI, more personalization? How are you getting attention from different kinds of advertising propositions? Because this is where rubber meets the road sort of a situation, right? Yeah. Can you create an opportunity for a brand to leverage a platform like yours, which has a lot of attention?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give an example, right? So what happened was that recently there was this LPG crisis all of us know about, right? And I was speaking to a friend of mine who also runs a very large solar company, and they were seeing an interesting shift in the market that suddenly solar demand was rising because of the LPG crisis, right? Because most Indian towns, tier 2 and tier 1 beyond, have like small houses but independent houses, and they have a so-called chat, right, where they can put a solar panel and kind of power their homes. And we actually created an integration for them, like in the moment that, okay, any news or any story that is going live on the platform, which is talking about the LPG crisis or how long the LPG crisis is going to be there was a integration for the brand that, okay, you can actually have a solar powered room as part of your energy savings plan or cost savings plan, and it is less costly over time, etc., right? So these sort of moments, right, show up. This is obviously a big moment. This is a one in a, let's say, decade kind of moment or one in a 5-year kind of moment. I'm hoping that this does not become frequent. But leveraging these moments and figuring out for each brand that how they can leverage each context in which the person is reading. A person who's spending more time on, let's say, a lifestyle kind of category might be and thinking about or consuming content around where to go for their next experiential trip, right? As of today, Gen Zs are doing a lot of experiential trips. That's how they are planning, that they first think of, okay, I want to attend this concert, and then they plan the trip around it. So is that a moment, let's say, where someone like Bacardi comes in, right? And or let's say when we have a feature on our app called Daily Rituals, right? Daily Ritual actually helps a person stay updated every day and they give streaks, etc. for it. So, like, for example, a Nescafe would be very the right kind of brand to think about their daily ritual, right? Like, as soon as you wake up, instead of the newspaper and the coffee, now you have the daily ritual, in shorts, and the coffee, right? So you have to think of these moments really, really well at the atomic level, that where is it that the brand and the context of the person is kind of merging, and how can you enable that for the brands. So we put a lot of detailing, and I think most of the industry peers know about it. We put a lot of detailing in kind of partnering with brands. So we follow very partnering kind of approach in figuring out, we are not a large, let's say 800 million mouse kind of platform. We are a platform that has a unique attention. There's a lot of intent driven attention. So how do we use that intent driven attention by partnering with brands and integrating in the right sort of nuanced ways is something that we kind of work on. And all of this happens, the turnaround time, like if someone tells me today it goes live tomorrow, the turnaround time is enabled because of AI. Because we have actually created a whole technology suite around it, that how do we take these things live like very, very quickly.
Makes sense.
I think in context, if you think about it, this debate we were having on performance versus brand, look, in fact, from a context point of view, AI is enabling performance marketing now more than ever. Your ability to be able to be optimized, your ability to be able to generate creatives which are so contextual, and performance marketing will always have its place in marketing, because for direct to consumer, it's equivalent of a sales channel. I mean, you need that revenue flowing in, so it will always exist. But how AI is impacting that and really providing that context is more powerful. I think the challenge then becomes how you take it to brand marketing and how you embed it in consumer insights. I feel the challenge is bigger there. The answer is much simpler from a context in performance marketing today. Yeah.
I agree. I wanted to ask, in fact, a question on that line only. India is essentially almost 7, 8, 10 countries, if you really think about it from a global lens. And with all of your brands being global brands, how are you using AI to also test hypotheses quickly across different languages, regions, demographic, et cetera, and has that spirit of experimentation increased dramatically because of all the AI tools available to your teams today?
I mean, that's, I would say, the easiest use case of what is happening today, no? And an even simpler use case of that is what is happening on all of the social commerce apps. You can keep putting out different visuals, key visuals with different messages at different points of the day and see what is working, what is not working. Of course, it is a function of how much you're going to be bidding for the keyword, of what time your product shows up, etc. But that use case of multiplicity, particularly where you are able to like shorten the time that it takes between intent to transaction, that's where the whole commerce game is changing. At the back end, to be able to rotate what is the kind of visual that you put in, what is the kind of message that you put out. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's an Nescafe or a Kit Kat, you're still going to be going to the similar category. Unlike, let's say, the other networks, you don't go and say, wherever the consumer comes, who are a wide set of people who are looking for A, B, C with intent signals, here it's there on the category page, you go and talk to them on what they need to. So that to me is the simplest, easiest, and unfortunately painful use case of having to go through too many KVs for one brand.
No, I think the digital use case is known. I think I can also reflect on what it means in brick and mortar retail. I think AI makes things that in the past were very difficult to do, like catering to India's very diverse food preferences, right? And we have thumbs up that goes well with a biryani, a Coke that goes well with your pizza, your burger, your bonda, your etc. And then now we're building kind of Sprite with spicy Chinese. When you try to do that, and there's a salesman standing at the outlet saying, "Mujhe to poster lagana hai, ab main poster. How do I make this poster?" AI means that the back end enables him to make the headline in Telugu, make sure that that noodle looks like the noodle the outlet wants to sell, and the right brand is next to it. That 5 years ago would have been close to impossible. The human beings involved in that number of KVs would have, smashed the use case right away. So I do think, be it digital or brick and mortar, that is one of the most clear use cases that organizations are rolling out pretty quickly.
Okay. I think we are pretty much at the top of the hour, but I still have to ask one question specifically to you, Deepith. Maybe you can also use that to converge the conversation. I know there are platforms that you have built, and again, in shorts being one, public being one, which is talking about all vernacular language content, and you're also getting a lot of traction there. How is your experience being in terms of user behavior across regions? And is that translating similarly to the brands offline and online on the panel also? I just want to take that.
Sure. So happy to have thoughts from the others as well. I think what we are seeing is that the amount of, as you had earlier kind of said, that there is a lot of like AI generated content is kind of flooding the internet, and hence the brands are also having to keep pace with it at a certain level to maintain kind of mind share, etc., etc. And there is tooling also available to kind of generate all of that and do a lot of hyper personalization, moment level personalization. And I think, but the challenge is still there, that how do you earn attention, right? Like what Grishma was also saying earlier, right? The challenge of earning attention comes from insights. Like obviously the trial and error capability has increased, but insights are still as rare, right? And that's where I think we were also talking about the moments that we have in our kind of lives, and small moments where, like you were talking about the where you found Diet Coke in like Meghalaya, right? It was a moment where the brand connected with you. So I think all of this kind of translates into a very complex liquid environment where we are all kind of competing also, using tools also, but at the same time, we are also trying to figure out what is the next, how do we continue to gain market share in our respective categories, how do we connect with our audiences, and in all of that, what I still feel is that just because you have better tooling available, the value of leadership or leaders like the people sitting here is still there in the last level of inciting. Like, where do you direct the AI towards, right? And what do you use it to find? And those, I am personally, I've been trained in computer science. I did my master's thesis in AI, etc. But I think the more I'm kind of growing, the more I'll find that human insights are more and more invaluable, and I think AI is nowhere close to that, and putting that extra attention and extra detailing is very, very important, and that's what I think leaders are getting enabled to do now. So yeah, I'll be very happy to see a reality where there is more creativity, more connection, more understanding, more empathy that comes because of using AI, and not, we are not getting away from other humans, we are getting closer to other humans. So that's I think something we'll aspire towards.
So before we wrap up, at Accenture, I think we see this play out on a daily basis, right? In all boardrooms, in CEO Connects, in promoter meetings, invariably all conversations are around AI, yet people are all very skeptical, right? And of course, I'm not even getting into the fact that the token cost may end up becoming more than people cost. That may also become a reality. We are solving for it. But at the same time, I think the only brands that have survived, and it's not an easy feat to last for 100 years or more. There are only few handful of brands that have done that. The larger ambit has always been that you keep a focus on your brand, stay true to that brand, but with AI and with all technology that has always come in, your ability to do test, your ability to do quick A/B tests, move forward, trial, fail forward, whatever it is, get that culture going, right? That culture is most important. Most teams which had that culture before 2022 are still successful. Many companies are drastically and frantically building that culture. It's not easy, but I'm glad that we had all of you on the panel. Thank you so much for spending time. And I hope the audience also enjoyed it. Thank you very much.